Hello and welcome to this lecture, and in this lecture we are going to learn how to retrieve multiple values from a given firebase database. So in the previous lecture we have learned how to basically go ahead and insert values into the database, but in this lecture we are going to learn how to retrieve values from them. And what we are going to do is that we are going to retrieve those values and we are going to put them in the log, which is nothing but this thing right here, so that whenever we run our application we are able to see the retrieved values over here. So for now what we will do is that we'll go through the code. So this is the basic setup which I have done here. So we basically have the reference to the database. So we got the reference to the root of the database, and we do have the by default layout, which is nothing but the XML layout, wherein we have two edit text and a button. So here what we want to do is that we want to put up a new value into the database, and at the same time we want to retrieve the newly added value as well as the previous value. So in order to do that, so we already have a reference to the edit text, and we have basically entered the values from the edit text to the child over here. So we basically are adding to the same child instead of just pushing the values over here. So now what we want to do is that in order to get the value, you first need to add the value event listener to your database reference. So this thing right here is your database reference. So you simply need to add a value listener or value event listener to this reference. So for that we go here and we type in myref dot add value event listener, and to this we pass in new value event listener. And as you could see, now we have the on data changed and on cancel method. So in the on data change method, that is whenever the data change related to a particular thing occurs, what we wish to do here is that we wish to take the data and display it into the log. So in the previous lecture where we have retrieved a single value, you could go ahead and use a string over here, and you could go ahead and save that value, which is the value from the data snapshot, save it in a string, and then you could display the string value into the log. But in this case, as we have two values, so let me just show you the database. So this is the database which we'll be working with. So in order to make things simple, I have simplified the database wherein we only have a value related to a single person. So the name is Tom and the contact is 82828. So here what we wish to do is that we wish to retrieve this multiple set of values and display them in the log. So in order to do that, you cannot do that thing by using a string. So instead we are going to use another data structure which is called as a map. Now if you know Java, you must already know what a map is, but if you don't know, map is actually a data structure which stores a key and a value pair. So map is actually a data structure wherein you could store multiple values and you could later retrieve those values depending upon their key name. So in order to use map, what you need to do is that you need to type in map. So the map actually stores a key value pair as shown. So every set of data is actually a set of key and a set of value. So every key is going to have a value. So you do need to mention the type of data which you are going to store. So we actually are storing strings. So we type string and string, and then type in map, which is the name of the map, and then you do need to typecast it with this thing right here. So let me just copy this and paste it over here for typecasting it. And then what we do is that we get the value from this data snapshot right here. So that's going to be data snapshot dot get value. So once we have the value in the map, then we need to go ahead and extract the individual values of name and contact. So for that purpose, we first make two strings for saving the name and contact. So string name equals map, and from this map you do need to get the value of name. So we type in get, and here in double quotes we specify name. So this actually extracts the value of name and stores it into the string name. Then we will have string contact equals map.get, and in the same way we get the value of the contact variable. So once this thing is done, we are pretty much good to go. And I actually misspelled contact over here. And now let's go ahead and display these values, that is the value of name and contact, into the log. So let's type in log .v and pass in the value of name as name. So type in name in double quotes and specify the string value name, and do the same thing with the contact as well. So log.v, and here we will have contact, comma, contact. So once this thing is done, we are pretty much good to go. So let me just save the code, and I'm going to run this application on my device, but I won't be able to show you my device because you don't actually need to. You just need to see how the value is displayed over here in the log, and when I change these values, we get the change as well. So let me just save the code and run this application on my device, and I'll also pull up Firebase over here. Okay, so the application is up and running, and let me just pull up the log over here. So as you could see in the log, you have the name as Tom and you have the contact as 82828. So now what we will do is that we will change the value. So I'm going to change the value by typing it into my app. So let's say we type in Tom and the contact is 2323. So when I click the button, as you could see, the value over here changed. And if you have a look at the log, so let me just minimize this and let me just scroll down a little bit. So as you could see down right here, you now have the value of Tom 8282, and then again you have Tom 2323. So let me explain why this thing actually happens. So what happens is that as you're changing values of two fields, that is the name as well as contact, so initially the value of the name field changes. So now we have Tom over here, but the thing is, in the first instance, the value of contact actually remains the same. Hence we get Tom and the old value of contact. But in the later iteration, what happens is that the contact value actually changes. So now you have the newer value of Tom as well as you have a new value of contact as well. Hence you get the updated values over here, and we are basically good to go. So that's how you could go ahead and get a reference to the value stored in the database. Now obviously this was a quite simple example just to show you guys, or just to make you guys understand how database values are retrieved and can be displayed. Now you could also use these values and you could also put them up in a list view or in a text view or anything like that, wherever you wish to. And just for the sake of reference, I've taken these values into a log instead of showing them into some another way. So that's it for this lecture, and in the next lecture what we will do is that we will learn how to basically go ahead, extract multiple values from the database, and instead of showing them in the log, we will show them in a list view. So let's say if you have a database of users, so let me just pull up Firebase. So let's assume that here you have a list of users or multiple users and you do want to display them in a list view. So in the next lecture we will learn how to do exactly the same. So we will be having multiple values over here. We will have a list view in our app, and all those values are going to be displayed into that particular list view. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.